From Rats to Riches. The story of the King Rat. The rat that would become known as the King Rat was born in the New York City subway sewers. He was named Cheeseman VI after his father, Cheeseman V. A quiet and solitary child, Cheeseman VI spent a lot of time on his own, having a special fascination with the advertisements pasted up on the subway walls. Young Cheeseman VI always dreamed about visiting the places in these ads. To him, a convenience store sounded much more interesting than the sewers under the subway. It would seem as if these posters were glimpses, little windows into a different world, and every night Cheeseman VI would stare and imagine and dream of a different life. This relatively carefree childhood existence of living in a subway came to a grinding halt one day, when a youthful skater jumped over a young Cheeseman VI, dropping a small nutcracker out of his back pocket. The naturally curious Cheeseman went up to the nutcracker and discovered that its clothes were removable. In an act of childhood delinquency, he took the clothes and put them on. Feeling fresh, he set off to show his new digs to his family. But something was going to happen that the little Cheeseman could not have ever predicted. Somebody had been watching, observing. Somebody knew that Cheeseman had royal clothes. The self-appointed subway mayor had been watching through his security cameras, seeing the young Cheeseman as both a threat to his rule and the fulfillment of a prophecy. He dispatched a group of fuzzy lowlives known as the Sriracha Boys to forcibly relocate the young man out of his subway. The Sriracha Boys were known for their crippling addiction to Sriracha bottles, known for their use and abuse of those tiny Sriracha bottles, which to them were quite large. This highly addictive hot sauce was enough to drive them mad, leaving them a gang of roving maniacs. The Sriracha Boys quickly approached the young Cheeseman. They told him to get on the next available train. If he refused to comply, they would tie him to the Rat King, a terrible fate, and one in which the irony was completely lost on the young Cheeseman. He didn't know what kings were, but being an agreeable young rat, he decided to wait for the next train. And anyway, this was a chance to see if the posters were really an accurate reflection of life outside. And so, when the F train arrived, he got on and set off to the next chapter in his life. It was a long and lonely ride. He had a long time to think about life and his place in it. He didn't come to any meaningful conclusions. Exiting the subway stop in a strange, new place and feeling the cool night air, Cheeseman would roam the streets until he found a place that he recognized, Bingo's convenience store. Being illiterate, he couldn't read the name, but he knew the building from the posters in the subway. Entering the store, Cheeseman was shocked to see a large amount of rats hanging out inside. Immediately, every rat in the building noticed him and swore loyalty then and there. It was to be their new king. Seeing Cheeseman confused, the rats went about explaining how monarchy works, the benefits and brilliant points of the system. They explained how they needed a new king because their last one, the Burger King from the TV, did not deliver on his promises of burgers. They then gave him a piece of paper that signified his claim to the throne. Alas, they cannot read. Cheeseman, now the King Rat, immediately set about making policies. Being told he had to prove his might, the first act was an act of war. They would take down the Burger King. With his rival out of the way, It was time to make changes at his new home. Standard sizes for mouse holes were set. A unifying currency known as rat coin began, and many more changes to rat society were made, having a positive effect and spreading outwards from the Binkos. After a few years of intense policymaking and managing his kingdom, the king rat became tired. He realized that all of this ruling had made him miss out on one of the very things that had driven him in the first place: the desire to explore. Setting off on his own, he would travel the city and find out more about the world around him. Sometimes he comes back to his convenience store home. It's more for fun, not business, unless it's tariff season. But his subjects don't seem to mind. They just like having him around. And that's the story of the King Rat. It's still ongoing, so who knows what he'll do next. What is certain, though, is that he's made his mark on rat culture and our hearts.